So, welcome to the Porter Community Meeting for January 13th, 2022. Um, we got a whole bunch of new people today, so I thought maybe we could do a quick round of introductions for anyone who would like to say hi.
Hey, I'll go ahead and get started since I'm at the top of the list. Um, Joel Baxter. I'm part of a team at my company that's building on Porter to do some application management. So we just want to start, getting more engaged and see what's going on and where we can help.
Great, nice to have you here. Would anyone else like to do a quick introduction? You don't have to. If you just want to lurk, that's fine.
Yeah, hey, this is Brian DeGeeter. Uh, we've chatted before, but I'm at F5 Networks, and yeah, we've been working on integrating Porter with workflow engine, that sort of thing at F5 here. And yeah, I'm kind of happy to let you know that finally got approval to officially contribute back to Porter on F5's time. So definitely something I'd like to be able to talk to you about moving forward and seeing what we can do to help accelerate aspects of the roadmap. So
That's great news.
And
took a lot of meetings to make that happen.
Oh, I bet.
very unfortunate that it had to go through that. But just to parrot what Brian said, I'm also at F5. We're working together on this and really want to kind of help drive forward some of the roadmap items that we're going to be utilizing as well.
Great. So the first agenda item, looks like someone put on here, was how the submission of Porter is going to Iron Bank. Brian, Stephen, was that one of you who put that on there, or someone else?
That was not us.
Okay.
I think we put it. I think we may have put it on quite some time ago for the meeting.
Yeah. You know, now that I think about that, that was probably Hatfield who added it. So I don't see them on the call. So we'll just skip over that for the moment because I don't personally have anything to say about it.
We might just describe the subject, which is, what Iron Bank is and what that means.
Do you want to go
really easy? Yeah, sure. And we're not going to go deeply, but basically for certain governmental organizations in the United States, it has similar processes. Different organizations and governments around the world have similar processes that are basically some standards by which it can be approved for use inside those organizations. And we're not talking about the secret stuff or, the fancy. We're just talking about the kind of stuff that all the governmental organizations have to abide by in terms of standards and scanning success and things like that. Distroless containers, stuff like that.
Isn't that part of Platform One with the government?
It is.
Isn't that? Yeah. All right.
Yep. So that's the conversation, and that sort of work is what we might call slowly in process. It's our intention that is, there should be a work item for it, but is there, Carolyn?
Yeah, actually, Nathaniel and I, we were able to knock out a couple of the things.
Great.
So I think the one PR for Porter got merged in.
Okay.
The next step, I think, is actually doing the submission,
So then the wrap up for that item is merely that this was a discussion about that process. And if that process interests you, we'll bring it back up in the future.
Yeah. Cool. What I'm really excited to show is something that this morning my entire Docker network decided to stop working. But if we're really careful, hopefully I can demo the operator. Just a little quick background. I'll paste this link in chat here. It's also in the agenda. If you're looking for background on the operator, the idea is that, we have Porter, the command line tool, but we'd like to be able to run Porter inside of a cluster and automate installing and upgrading bundles. And just to refresh your memory, what operator does is it creates a job inside of Kubernetes, and that job runs something we call the Porter agent, which essentially it's the Porter CLI with a lot of extra config and things like that, so it could run in Kubernetes. And what it'll do is it'll spawn a second job, and inside that job it will run the bundle itself. So one job is for Porter, one's for the bundle. And what I wanted to show you is what the new file format looks like. It's the V1 file format for Porter, and you'll notice that's why the URL for these docs, I'll say release V1. If you just go to porter.sh, you're not going to find this. You need to go specifically to the V1 here. If you're looking for how to find that, you can switch in between them right here at the top left, the nav. Switch back and forth. So the custom resource definition in Kubernetes is essentially the entire installation document that Porter stores, and you just copy and paste that into a spec and you're good to go. So if you have existing installations right now, you can use the Porter installation show command, and you can dump out the YAML and then copy and paste that in and kind of move on from there. We are going to have a command that helps make these, so it's a little bit easier, less manual fudging around, but we don't have that in yet. So let's just switch here. So I have an installation here. Hello Llama. I don't know if you're familiar with Llama. It just says hi. This is not an exciting bundle, but it runs fast. And in the spec, we're saying that we want the installation to be installed in the demo namespace, not the Kubernetes namespace, but Porter's namespace. If you remember from, gosh, probably August, I added the concept of namespaces and labels to Porter documents themselves, so that Porter is able to group related installations into namespaces and then be able to kind of filter and give you different views on them. And later on, when we implement dependencies, that'll have a much bigger impact. But I just want to call out that namespace and name are different than the Kubernetes namespace and name, which is defined up in metadata. So I have a bundle called Hello Llama, and it's set up to use this repository. We're on version 0.1.1, which is great. And I can also specify what parameters to pass. This bundle doesn't take credentials, but you could also specify the names of credential sets to use. I have an open issue after this to get proper credential set support in the operator. So for the moment, if you wanted to try out credentials, you would want to make the credential set directly using the Porter CLI, and then you could use it here. And we're not going to talk about this just quite yet, but we'll see what that does. So we have an installation here, and I want to apply it. Oh my gosh, sweat and bullets watching that run. Okay. So let's see what Porter's going to do with that. Oh man, that was really fast. Okay. So it ran a pod that ran Porter, right? We were talking about that Porter agent. So let's see what that looks like. I know, so fast, 3 seconds. I need to talk faster. So let's look at Hello Llama here. Okay. And you can see it kind of matches pretty much everything we thought from creating it. If you want to see the logs from it actually running, you can do Porter logs Hello Llama. So you don't actually have to go in and dig and look at pods and jobs and all that. You can, feel free. We're going to start cleaning those up pretty quickly though, instead of leaving them around for debugging purposes. Ignore all these could not streams. We're a little chatty at the moment. Everything's just kind of in debug mode. But this is the output of running the installation. And as you see, it's not the most exciting. So if I wanted to get the YAML for this though, Porter installation show Hello Llama. This is what I was talking about. If you wanted to copy and paste this into a spec, you would have a valid custom resource for Kubernetes to be able to apply and start using. So if you wanted to edit something about this, let's do this. We could change whatever parameters we're passing in. No. I could apply this change and the operator is going to pick this up. You can see it's making an upgrade this time and it's going to run Porter again and it's already done. So that's cool. Oh my God, yeah, Ralph, I'm totally ripping off SVCat. Like all my CLIs look the same. So let's look at this again. Now you can see that, you know, Porter picked it up. It's now using demo time, which is great. And so this is the new feature. It's not actually released. I don't know if you can see here, actually, we are very much on the screaming edge. This is something I built locally and tried very hard to get working in time for today. So let's look at this. And now let's talk about active for a second. There's two different ways that people want to be able to manage uninstalling a bundle, okay? The kind of Kubernetes native way is you just delete the CRD, and that works, right? But that's not always a workflow people are keen on. It could cause kind of weirdness because if things go wrong, I don't know, if you've used Kubernetes much, you've definitely gotten in this situation where like, there's a finalizer, which is what our operator uses to kind of ensure that we can clean up resources before it's deleted, and things can kind of get stuck. And once you've deleted a Kubernetes resource, there's no undelete, there's no going back, right? So if you run into trouble where, for example, you try to uninstall a bundle using kubectl delete, no, we're not directly hitting etcd. You can end up in a situation where like there's no rollback, there's no like, oops, I really didn't want to delete it. Like Kubernetes is like, we've gone down a path, we have to keep going. And then the other piece of this is sometimes you want to be able to uninstall a bundle and still have a record that it was there. And Porter keeps that record, but it'd be nice to be able to see that inside of Kubernetes as well. So if you're listing installations directly through Kubernetes, you can see that there used to be one there and it's been uninstalled. So this is where active comes into play. Active just says, should this be installed, yes or no? Suggestions welcome for the name. This hasn't been merged yet. Yeah. So let's do that. Cross all your fingers and toes, okay? What did you do? And you can see it picked up and now it's trying to uninstall it. It went really fast. Actually, it was this one 2 seconds ago. So let's look at what Porter thinks. So it says we have Hello Llama, but we just uninstalled it, which is great. And if we use Kubernetes and we look at our installations, because of the way we deleted it, it's not really delete, because of the way we uninstalled it, you'll still be able to see it here, right? I'm not exposing any way to like completely do a Porter delete. Not everyone's aware of this, but there is actually installation delete. It's mostly there as a convenience for people who are testing and end up making a ton of data and want to get rid of it. So yeah, we have two different ways to uninstall your bundles at this point now. So you can YOLO, be brave, and do a Kubernetes, you know, kubectl delete. That will work. If you like the softer way though, you can just say I want it uninstalled, but I still want to keep that CRD around, which I think will be super useful to people. Under the hood, I would say like 99% of the logic for all of this is actually hidden in this command. Installation apply. This command is kind of like our portal to having desired state in Porter. The idea is that you can give Porter a file and say, I don't know if this is installed or not, or if this matches what's already there and it should be upgraded. Porter will figure it out. It'll figure out if it should be an install, an upgrade, or an uninstall. Or maybe nothing's changed at all. It'll just print out nothing's changed and just kind of move on with your life. And so what this is really nice about this is it's going to allow us to quickly deliver fixes by just pushing out a new image for Porter and not having to really dig into the operator at all. It keeps the operator super small and hopefully, I can't say bug free, but I think it'll simplify things a lot to have everything go through this path. So if you were trying to automate Porter right now and do something that was GitOps, you could, watch a repository and just kind of naively call Porter installation apply, right? Anytime a file changed, and be good. If you were using the operator, you could just, again, do Kubernetes, apply-f and give it the file and just kind of go from there. And your automation doesn't have to be aware whatsoever about what's a bundle, what's going on with inside that file, was it a delete, anything like that. You can kind of just do the most simple scripting and it should work. I'm hoping to get this released next week. Vaughn willing. He's got to approve this. Okay, I've talked too much. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts on this.
First of all, I think that's awesome to see that progress and really appreciate it. And like I really like the dual options of delete the CRD versus the active, because it accommodates like workflows I've had in the past around like cloud governance, where like I've used projects like Cloud Custodian, where I can go in and have an outside agent like look for these things, put metadata on saying, oh, this is going to be marked for delete, notify a user, and then come back and set it to active fault. So it allows for that kind of using additional metadata on the CRD to capture some of that kind of governance process. I think that's great. But one question I have, and this is maybe I'm not up to date with the latest. I was trying a bit of this before the holidays. When I was trying to use 1.0 and the operator, it wasn't clear to me what the state of the Kubernetes plugin was for 1.0 and how to get everything I understood is like your local Porter CLI has to be injecting into the MongoDB in your Kubernetes cluster right now. Is that still the case?
Yeah, so let me explain. I totally get what you're saying. And the state of the Kubernetes plugin is we need to revisit it. Okay, that's where it's at. I couldn't get it to work. So I didn't write it either. So it's not like I just forgot. So we need to go back and look at it again and just kind of see if it needs some refreshing. I think it does, especially around secrets. The way I have my environment set up here is the Porter operator bundle. And that's the way you install the operators through Porter, of course, is it will install a in-cluster instance of MongoDB for you, okay? And the way I got my Porter CLI here to be able to see the exact same data store that the operator is seeing is I did a port forward from, that Mongo instance it's running inside the cluster. I ran a port forward command so that I could access it, using my local Porter, right? So it's like a total cheat. If I was actually running in the cloud instead of locally, obviously this would be a lot different. I would have real connection strings with either IP addresses or domain names. And it wouldn't feel so hackish, right? Mm-hmm. The desired end state, though, is that the Kubernetes plugin, which is the default, would be able to store a lot of this stuff locally for us and retrieve secrets and things like that. Because we switched to MongoDB, though, we would only be using the Kubernetes plugin for secrets we wouldn't be using it for data storage because it was
It's
just
where are secrets in the MongoDB right now then, or where are
it has
secrets?
to do with how, when I say the word secret, what I mean is when
Yeah.
Porter needs to inject sensitive data into a parameter or credential, we use the secrets plugin. And the secrets plugin essentially says, I have a key for some really top secret value, like a database password. And then it'll resolve actually retrieving that from somewhere. It could be retrieving it from a Kubernetes secret and then injecting it into the bundle. Or for example, like the Azure secret plugin will grab it from Key Vault. The HashiCorp plugin gets it from Vault. So the idea is that the Kubernetes plugin for Porter, after we refresh it, won't do data storage. Porter's database won't be stored in there. It'll be stored in Mongo going forward. But if you wanted to be able to resolve secret data and inject it into bundles, you should be able to, get that out of Kubernetes secrets.
Yeah.
Is the idea.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember like it's the getting the secret into Kubernetes initially, because I've got everything basically going from 38 to 1.0. I've got a lot of Porter config swapping scripts, right? And like right now our workflow is create a secret in Kubernetes with the credentials keyword, and then go into Porter and create the credential set referencing those secrets. But it sounds to me like that Porter credential creation step, that's the gap that I have right now. And we don't have to go into detail on that now, but
that's fine. Yeah, we have an open issue. It's going to be happening after this uninstall stuff goes in. That's the next thing that's happening, is the ability to have, let me switch over here for a second and go to file formats. We're going to have files that you can apply with using kubectl for credential sets and parameter sets as well. And that'll make it easier to get data in without doing kind of weird hijinks.
Like expect scripting?
Sorry?
Like expect scripting?
Yeah.
Stephen wrote some expect scripts for the interactive part in 38.
We also have one other issue, which is for 1.0. Which is we'd like to be able to get secret data out of config files. So let's say you have a real Mongo database and it has a connection string. We don't really want to hard code that and put it in a config file on your laptop or something like that, or in a production environment. So the next step is that Porter should be able to resolve the connection string to the database using the secrets plugin. Just, like how I would resolve other things, we should be able to go to a vault or something like that and be able to get that out securely and not have sensitive data sitting in files or, with the operator, these are just CRDs and our back is not very fine grained. So again, we don't want things actually sitting in those at all. So yeah, we're getting there. We're getting close. So that should help us run real bundles when we add credential sets to the operator. At the moment, it's still kind of, you gotta kind of.
That's great to hear. And
Yeah.
I'll just reiterate, like if there are things that we can help accelerate with any of those goals, we could have talk on the side or whatever.
Yeah, let's talk, because support for credential sets and parameter sets is super straightforward. We just need to define the CRDs, put them in there, and add some retrieval logic so that we use them and apply them to Porter. So I think like there's a lot of patterns in the operator that show you how to do those two. So yeah, let's chat afterwards about that if you want to help with that. That'd be great. That's really what I wanted to show about the operator. Were there any other questions or feedback on that from what you saw?
First of all, I thought it was fantastic. It's super smooth. The thing I love, Carolyn, now that I know you for several years, as I think you have an intuitive sense of how the CLI should flow from mode to mode. That is, you have a real facility with the mental state change engine that developers have and operators have on the command line. And I have to say, it always brings pleasure when I get a new experience that follows that model. So first of all, yay.
Thanks.
Second of all, I'm going to kill TV because I think there's a delay. But second of all, I was just going to compliment you and say that one area is the question of whether we can hint to in the UX about the two modes that you might be looking at, rather than have them be silent, if you know what I mean.
Do you mean the two modes? Do you mean a Kubernetes delete versus setting the flag?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because the problem is that every single individual will be in the right mode, right? They'll be thinking about the cluster the right way. But as soon as you toss a cluster back and forth, even if it's a developer cluster, you're going to be crossing mental models of what the mode is and the state and so forth, and they be interpreted differently. And so it's not a problem right now. It's just something to think about, like if there's a way to signal to any user who walks up with the same access to that cluster, you know, that you're in this particular mode.
Active versus you're using delete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same problem with any global resource like CRDs. It's like, how can you tell people one does the CRD and it's on you, and one will do the best we can and leave the CRD because we can give you lots of information about it if we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you could open up an issue so we could kind of like think through what we could help with, either through config or docs or, you know, any hints.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
I was actually thinking about some sort of signal when you use the command a certain way, but we'll see. I'll think about it and open an issue. Great.
You know,
love it.
The other thing I've been
I have to
thinking
run.
about. Oh, sure. I'm glad you were able to come.
Yep,
The
me
other thing I'm
too.
thinking
Cheers,
about
everybody.
is that Porter actually doesn't even have we have a delete, right? So it's kind of weird to have Kubernetes delete mean something else. It means uninstall. Like, to be honest, like a part of me is wondering if we just shouldn't do anything when the user does a CRD delete, you know, kubectl delete, and just kind of say the operator only uses active. I have no idea if that's like a terrible idea or maybe kind of makes things more consistent the way Ralph was suggesting.
When I think of things like that, I tend to go check behaviors in Argo just to see as a sanity check, because I know I've seen things there where it's like, oh, they have a delete or like a time to live where something will just, you know, you've deleted it, but it's going to stick around for a certain amount of time. Yeah, it's kind of, when you get into those workflow engine aspects of it, there's often reference behaviors from some of the other Kubernetes workflow engines.
Yeah. It feels like everyone seems to kind of do it differently. I haven't looked at Argo though, specifically to know kind of what's out there. I'm just kind of mapping what Porter has, whereas uninstall does not get rid of a record, right? Uninstall just says there was an installation. Now it's not installed, but you can still see it, right? And then we actually have an explicit delete as well, you know, that gets rid of Porter's record of it. And we have protections so you can't delete something that hasn't been uninstalled, for example.
Yeah. I mean, so maybe it's delete is deleting the record, but you can't delete something that's active.
Yes. Yeah. So the question is like, maybe Kubernetes deletes, when you delete a CRD, we shouldn't be mapping that to uninstall, for example. Maybe we should be doing something different, you know, and just saying the way to uninstall through the operator is that active flag, you know. I don't know. Something to kick around more.
Can I ask, because I wasn't paying close enough attention here, and I'll just say, first of all, like, we've basically wrapped 30.0.38 in an Argo workflow
Mhm.
to fill in gaps that we knew was on the roadmap and everything.
Yeah.
And one of them is waiting for a installation job or a job to be completed, and the other is gathering output from it. I didn't see, was there, I know there's backlog and roadmap around like a roll-up status in the installation resource, or is that still being discussed?
I was just
And I know
working on that
outputs
yesterday.
comes with a whole other kind of
Yeah.
set of
Let's see if
issues
it-
with sensitive data and whatnot.
Let's see if
But
it actually.
I'm waiting to retire most of the Argo work we did to wrap some of that and help get it in natively into the
Yeah.
operator.
Yeah. So I've started populating some status on
Nice.
installation that will tell you, and obviously I'm not quite there yet. I just wrote this yesterday. But the idea is we're going to start adding conditions. So you'll be able to know, was the job scheduled? Did it complete successfully? Did it fail? There's kind of a gap though in when you think about what's the source of truth for the state of any installation. Okay. When I run Porter through the operator itself doesn't have any insight at the moment into the actual what's the state of that installation. I run Porter installation apply, and Porter will do something. The operator doesn't know. Did it run install? Did it run upgrade? Did it uninstall it? Things like that. I just know if it was successful or not. Did that command work? Yes or no? So the question is, like, do we want to try to get more of that data out, right? And how do we want to try to do that? Because anything we start scraping out of Porter's database and copying and replicating either onto the status or as additional CRDs is going to quickly fall into, I think, this big problem of what's the real source of truth, what's the actual latest status of this, because there's always going to be, at the very best, lag between Porter's database, which is actually up to date, and whatever these CRDs say. And the fact that they could get out of sync is
I mean, you see a
someone just
similar
has to
thing
interact with Porter outside of the operator, and it's not actually valid latest data anymore. So I really shied away from putting too much in there. But if there's more stuff we want to see besides did it finish, did it run, we can start trying to put that in there with the caveat that, like, there's no guarantee that that's actually accurate data.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious on thoughts of like what is in the database versus what's in Kubernetes, because I think of like the relationship with jobs and pods in Kubernetes, where jobs are just managing running pods, and the pod logs get streamed up into the job resource, and there's possibilities to stream logs to their parent objects and status. But that's kind of relying more on going directly to the Kubernetes APIs and that sort of thing for the state and source of truth versus having them in another data
Kubernetes
store.
will never be the source of truth, ever.
Yeah.
So, there's just like, it opens up a really big can of worms. Right now I'm staying, at the moment, what I'm implementing is just giving you insight into what we did on the Kubernetes side. Did it run?
Yeah.
Did it complete? Eventually retries, will be in there as well. And that all, Kubernetes is the source of truth. Did we try it again? Did we run it? Like, that's all legit information that isn't in Porter. It's in here. It's in Kubernetes. So beyond that,
etcd
though,
in your
bringing
kube cluster
things
is not your data store.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can overload it.
Yeah. So I think you were talking about like what workarounds do you have? You have some around eventing, and I think waiting to know, did Porter finish, is going to be in pretty soon. Okay. But you won't be able to know things like, did it run install? Did it run upgrade? Did it run uninstall? what outputs came out of it. The suggestion from one of our contributors, Mohammed, was we could actually expose a service on the cluster that just lets you query Porter's backend database, and you would get live then accurate data that you could then do more things with, you know? So if you wanted to get outputs, you could query, you know, like a gRPC service or something in the cluster that says, give me the outputs for this thing. But outputs are something that I think are kind of special because they are like a snapshot in time. Just that's the way they are. The state of an installation could be anything at any time, right? Outputs are for a run, what was the output? If you do another run, you get a unique new output, and you're able to always reference the different ones. I'd be way more willing to extract outputs and dump them into CRDs or probably config maps or secrets or something like that, you know, because there isn't that concern about staleness at that point. Just a matter of, is it secure? Well, I don't know how secure is your cluster, but you know, some of the outputs could be sensitive. Does that kind of help give you an idea of like where we're going and how fast we're going to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, we've been trying to pay attention as much as possible and everything. And so, yeah, I think we're just ready. We're kind of ready for our next wave to take the latest improvements and everything and get them into kind of our working example, and then actually, instead of just waiting for you to get some new functionality and help move some things forward with you.
that would be just great. Yeah, I would love it if someone wanted to tackle supporting credential sets and parameter sets, so that you could have a CRD that says this is my credential set. You could use kubectl apply, and then, you know, Porter would then have that definition internally so that you could use it and reference it in your installations, and Porter would be able to pick that
So
up.
you say like a credential set and a parameter set as like a CRD for the operator, or
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
let's say, for example, you wanted to define an installation that needed a set of credentials, right? Somehow you have to be able to tell it. And normally in the CLI, you use credential sets, right?
Yep.
I was just going to take the concept of credential sets, make that our CRD, so that you could say, this is where you're going to get a database connection string. This is where you're going to get a GitHub token, etc. Yeah. Define that in that credential set CRD. And then Porter will be aware of it and can use that to do its like secret resolution and credential injection.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I like, even that gives the ability to layer on things like customize and things like that for having some templates and yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
All right, cool. Was there any other feedback or thoughts or anything? All right, I'm gonna move on to one more thing that just got merged and is in the release that was cut last night that I still haven't put out a public notice about, but we have a new V1 release and it has an improvement to Mixins. Right now, when you run a Mixin and it fails, you're stuck with it. It failed, the bundle's gonna fail, right? There's a lot of situations though where not every error is an error. Sometimes things are more of a problem than others. For example, let's say you were using a Mixin to create a resource and it already exists, right? Some command line tools that you're using understand that you were trying to create something that already exists, it's not an error, and you won't get a non-zero exit code back, and your bundle will work fine. Other CLIs are not that forgiving, and when you call it, it may be giving you an error message or an exit code that indicates it already exists. And because we rerun, actions and bundles all the time, we'll run install, maybe it gets halfway through, something wasn't quite right, you're gonna run it again. All of those steps are gonna be executed whether or not the resource exists. So the exec Mixin and eventually all the other Mixins are gonna give you a way to add error handling and say, here's a hammer. Just, I don't care if it ever passes. Like, just run it, and whatever happens, who cares? Just keep running. You can check exit codes and say, I know these 3 exit codes, it's fine. It's not actually a problem for me in my bundle. Or if you want to scrape standard error and look for a string like already exists, or maybe during uninstall, you want to look for not found, and, you know, don't have things fail if you're trying to delete something that's already deleted. This should help us be able to handle error cases inside our bundles and then move forward, you know. So the exec Mixin has this, and the other piece about this, I don't know if anyone uses the AZ Mixin, but just trying to, like, I was trying to demonstrate what you could do with this as a Mixin author, is that you can now define, where did I put this? Maybe it never got merged. What happened with that one? It's not merged yet. I'm adding kind of idempotent commands to the AZ Mixin as an example of what we could do for any of the Mixins. So you may have a command line tool that doesn't really understand idempotency at all. Like, I want to make this thing, and if it exists already, perfect. If not, bring it up and match that. So I've added a command called group to the AZ CLI. Instead of actually explicitly running group create or group delete and things like that, you can just say it should exist. It should be in this location. And if not, make it happen. Same thing, if I want to remove it, it should be gone. And the Mixin itself does all that error handling that we were just talking about. So instead of the Mixin author having, the bundle author having to kind of, for every bundle they write, handle the errors around how to correctly create a group or correctly remove a group, we can handle this once cleanly in the Mixin, and then your YAML just looks a lot more straightforward. So like I said, we're going to get this in. The release just got cut, actually, and we're going to try to upgrade all the Mixins to support this error handling. So if you use a Mixin and you think, hey, it could really use a command like this, where I just need something to exist and it needs to look a certain way, and I don't want to write explicit commands and error handling to make it happen, suggest it, let us know, you know, put it, you know, any one of our repos. And we can try to figure out how to get that, you know, implemented, because I'd love to have more examples of commands like this in our official Mixins. Or maybe it was just me who really wanted this feature. To be honest, I came back from break and like someone showed me their hack for doing this, and I was like, that's it. And just, you know, spent a day and implemented it. It was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Cool.
I mean, that's awesome. It's like it's the best of like those patterns from Ansible and Terraform and whatnot kind of combined. It's like more and more I see Porter, it's like the Voltron of all those tools kind of coming together to be this more powerful thing, you know?
I am shameless. If I see a good pattern, I will rip it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But kudos, that's great to see.
Cool. Yeah, so if anyone uses this, send me an example. I'd love to see how people are using this, because, you know, I have my use cases. Obviously, I'm really excited about desired state and create and delete, but there may be other situations where this is useful, and I'd love to be able to, like, you know, bubble that up and share it with the whole community. So we have a new Porter developer, by the way. We were going to introduce them at the beginning, but we just kind of jumped in. Imran, do you want to introduce yourself and say hi?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm in Rome. I recently joined Caroline's team and is going to work on Porter full-time alongside of Caroline. And I am located in Atlanta. I used to, my last job is also open source. So I'm excited to jump back in and learn more about Porter and the use cases and help improve the project. Thank you.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have you with us. This is gonna be great. No offense, Juan,
Awesome.
but I need a buddy. Yeah. Poor Vaughn has been reviewing all my PRs after he left. So I've always felt guilty about that. I do appreciate all the reviews though.
Super excited. Welcome, Yingran.
Thank you.
Great. That's all I had for today. I really appreciate everyone coming and bringing a whole bunch of your use cases and feedback. Hopefully you liked what you see. If you have any things that you come up with later and you're like, oh wait, that's trash, we should do something differently, which obviously is how all the feedback looks on Porter. Feel free to reach out on Slack or GitHub discussions, whatever. We got a mailing list. We have all the communication mediums, basically. So, stay in touch. Don't just show up to these meetings. Definitely. We always want people's feedback. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.